only going to go for an hour, so let's get started. I'm Mike Morsel. I'm the current president of the Crozet Board of Trade. Yeah, anywhere over there. The Board of Trade is a 501c3 civic organization. And we have a checking account and a tax-free status. So long as we don't meddle in politics, we're good. So we don't officially meddle in politics. Now, tonight we're going to do 2 or 3 things. One, we're going to hear from some new businesses in town. We have Greg Scherer here with Perrone Robotics. Right here. There he is. Yeah. Okay. And I don't know your name.
Jennifer Blanchard.
Jennifer Blanchard from Morsel Compass. And your food is really good, Jennifer. I gotta say. Yeah. It's really been a pleasure to have you plant where you are. And oh, there you are. I didn't see you come in either. I also want people to be able to meet Core and talk about his new business. He's got the bicycle shop. Okay. So they'll each get a couple of minutes and talk. Frank Stoner's here from Milestone. And we're gonna, you remember last month he had a meeting in Piedmont Place and he put up his plans. And he asked the public to react to his plans. We're going to find out what they told him, what he took away from that, and what the status of that development is right now. Because it seems like it's getting to the point where it's going to wrap up, Frank, so we hope that's true. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Tom Loach is here because we're going to talk about the, thank you, Tom. We're going to talk about the survey again. We're going to survey the town to find out what current attitudes are about growth and specific questions in the master plan, because we're going to go back in there and we're going to fix a couple of kinks we have in the master plan. And that survey is going to get started quick. Frankly, the Board of Trade needs to kick in all the money and try and help that happen. If we raise something like $4,000, maybe $5,000, we can have a survey that's scientific. We got solid numbers. We can believe the numbers we get back. But you have to pay money to get 500 people that are actively enrolled before you reach that scientific threshold. That's where the money comes in. And then, gosh, there was something else after that too. What else were we doing? Ann needs to talk about the rest of the There's one other thing. Oh, Mike Alexander with Crozet Pizza raised the possibility that maybe we could visit the pizza for a meeting. They just took over the former Over the Moon spot, which gives them sort of a nice room where it's not noisy. I don't want to take anything away from John, but John's been a great host. And really, we wouldn't have the Board of Trade meeting right now if John hadn't stepped up and sort of eased it along. And that part of that was offering this place to us. And it's been great. Last time we had a little competition from the other side of the wall, and it became a little bit hard for the meeting to happen. But anyway, we might want to consider would we want to move around to some other places and try and get more people, at least in those places, interested in the Board of Trade. I think that's it. Now, maybe Greg, we can start with you and come on up and talk to us about Perrone Robotics. While he's doing that, we have a sign-up thing about your email. If you've given us your email and you got the message, then you're fine. If you've given us your email but you're not getting our message, then you're not fine. You might want to check your spam filter, but in that case, make sure you write it down again. So we're trying to get a way to contact everybody. Great. Tell us about yourself.
Mike, thank you very much. Thank everybody for their time this evening. I'm Greg Scherer, as Mike mentioned. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Perrone Robotics. And I'm really excited to be here tonight to talk to all of you. Let me give you a little background on Perrone Robotics as the first step. Perrone Robotics is a company that's been around for quite some time, for 13 years. But in the last year, we just decided to sort of restart the business and take a different direction. We've done some very exciting things for the last 13 years, building custom robotic solutions for a variety of people in different industries. Some drone-based robotic systems, some vehicular systems, some very small security robots, systems that do traffic management, toll collection steps, various different projects like that. But one common thread this whole time was we learned a lot about the control systems, the software that can run robots. And we're now refocusing the business on taking that software asset we spent 13 years building and focusing in particular on the development of autonomous cars, self-driving cars. And in that, we've attracted some attention from the outside world. We've got some investment dollars from Intel Capital, one of the premier venture capital firms in the United States and around the world. And we will be announcing shortly another investor from a major automobile manufacturing organization. So they'll also be sending us some money. And we're going to use this money to invest in our business and invest in our team, which is going to be growing, and invest in community in the process. Our hope is to continue to be able to benefit from this wonderful location we all live in Central Virginia. A place where great quality of life, great environment to get things done, modest tax rate compared to any municipalities that I've worked in the past, such as Silicon Valley, Detroit area, New York, and other places, really have a very different structure in the tax side of things. It makes it very difficult. And we also have challenges in other environments about people wanting to stay. And that's one of the great things I've always seen about Albemarle County and this area in particular, is that people come here and they just don't want to leave. So we're going to try to leverage that great asset, which is this environment that we live in, to attract a world-class team of people, both people who are already here in the community, which will be a big source of our hires, but also people outside the community who will come in with their families and their friends, hopefully, and help us grow the team without as well. And our plans are pretty aggressive, and we're very thankful to have met Frank and be able to see the potential in the Barnes Lumber property. I remember when it was a functioning lumber mill years ago, but now it's not really that attractive and exciting to look at. But we want to be part of the sort of rejuvenation effort that will take this great resource right in the middle of town, great access to services, the railroad, to roads, and turn it into something wonderful. And we look forward to, over the next several years, building our business, but also watching the development of the green space and development of other facilities on that property that will enable us to be successful, but also for some companion businesses around us to grow up and further help us be successful along with the community. So I appreciate the time to talk about this, and appreciate the community that we live in and the chance to be a part of seeing the future improve here in our area and seeing the growth of Crozet in a positive, sustainable way, doing things that are not polluted, that are clean, that are high-tech, and that are exciting for both us as engineers and developers and for the community, as a large community.
I think them coming into downtown is like a hinge moment in history of Crozet. I read, maybe I'm wrong, I think it was at one point it speculated 100 jobs might end up with Perrone. So
we could easily see that happening.
Yeah,
that may be a little bit on the high side for 3 years, but
yeah,
easily.
We'll give you 3 years to get to 100.
In our future, we see that 100 jobs being a goal.
Yeah, but I mean, those are the companies we want, that can come in and create an employment base like that for us, especially in downtown. Let's ask them some questions. When are you going to get into that? What's your time frame for being on farms?
As soon as we can get things set up and working.
Okay.
We don't have everything quite nailed down yet. There's still some lease details, things like that are underway. But I think we've solved, thanks to the county supervisors and planning commission's efforts, pushed through the amendments to the proffers we needed to get that piece taken care of back in December. At this point in time, we've got a plan in place, and we just need to execute on that plan. If all the dominoes fall the right way, we'll be moving into Crozet in the February time period. Kind of a month, but soon.
Good, cool.
Any questions for
what else
anybody?
do we hear? Yeah.
We're looking forward to.
Come on, this guy's going to take over the mind of your car.
Yeah.
You don't have any questions for him?
How much space are you looking to fill?
Well, we don't have a huge number of square foot needs today. We're looking at about a 5,000 square foot office, and another 5,500 square feet of garage, warehouse, light manufacturing space for our vehicles. The big space need that we have that's being accommodated by the barn's property is a test track.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
So the test track we're building out now, construction's actually already started, sort of at risk there. But starting until we can get the steel down, we 2,900 lineal feet, about half a mile of lineal track. That's going to be straightaways, there'll be some loops, there'll be an intersection, a roundabout, and a couple other features like that to simulate what you find out in the roads.
Now, is that on barns you're talking about that, or
Yes.
close to the
Yeah,
barn?
On barns. So all the spaces now that are littered with porta potties will, before it's long,
Disappear. Yeah.
be converted over to a low surface road that we'll be driving our vehicles on to test. And we'll be adding features to that over the course of the next year or two and giving some land back as the development happens. So we recognize that piece of the property will ultimately be reclaimed for this green space and other development purposes. But it will be integral for us to have that resource.
Yeah.
What we do is we test very thoroughly in the lab on simulation systems, but then we test very thoroughly again on our test track to make sure before anything ever gets out onto the road environment, it's been double checked and it's very safe and secure.
So do we get a discount on the first set of cars that drive?
That's right, hometown
Negotiate
discount.
that.
Treat the turkeys.
He might need a lot of turkeys.
That's good.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We hope you'll come back and visit with us some more and be part of our company when you guys get established.
And I look forward to sort of meeting all of you and being at your businesses and bringing the team around as well. My mother-in-law went to all the restaurants in Crozet in the last couple of days and collected menus. And now my team has.
Well, has she eaten at any of them or just one?
I've lived in this community for 74 years and eaten at every restaurant there is.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm sure we just want to make sure we get a good reputation there.
That's right.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Blanchard, and with my partner Keely Haas, we had created 4 years ago, we're going in our 5th year, a food truck that was just supposed to be fun and just a little side exciting time. My friend and I had reacquainted ourselves after not talking for a while because we play hockey and now that's actually anyway, so we had this love of food together. We wanted to do this. So on a whim one day, she was like, "Oh my God, I bought us a food truck." And I'm like, well, "Okay, I guess we're gonna do this." And
That's a hell of a
so
whim right there.
it was like, wow, okay, we're doing this. And but her and I, we have so much fun doing it, and we do try to feed everybody the way we do our families and treat people like they're our best friends. And that's why when you come into our shop, or now our shop at Piedmont Place, anybody that's ever come to our truck, we act like we know you, because we do. We've just been everywhere around this place. And so we were really excited to have been approached by Drew Holsworth to enter Piedmont Place, because it was what we figured the next step on what we can do for Crozet, because we live here, we have kids here, and all of our friends are here. And so we are excited we are open, and we're open 6 days a week, and we hope to expand our hours as we get used to this the sedentary part of it. We're not driving around.
What day aren't you?
We're stationary right now. Mondays right now. But yeah, we are open Tuesday through Sunday. And but we wanted to say hi. We're so excited to be here and so excited to be a part of this. And we've met great friends through our business, like Judd. Love those turkeys. Love those turkeys. And we hope to get to know all of you as we, grow with our new experience here.
Well, their food, I don't know if you've been in there.
It's very good.
It's very good.
It's
Yeah,
very
it's
good.
nice and fresh. It's
Very fresh.
It's made, you got a good thing going.
We do try, nothing, well,
Yeah, your truck was good too, but you're still doing
we
good.
try to do 90% of everything by hand.
Yeah.
sauces, marinating. We don't make the tortillas, and we don't make the salsa currently, because we think it's more important to make like amazing Kelly Brown's turkey soup and amazing carne asada, because that's what we do. I think.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Congratulations on opening and, hope to make a lot of money.
I heard that too.
They all, you may have done Morsel Compass, because for years they've come out and helped us out on the 4th of July. too.
We love the 4th of July with our favorite dude in the back there, Tim Tolson.
Yeah.
Favorite guy ever.
Yeah. But
Because-
that's community spirit right there, so we
Oh,
love
yeah.
that.
It's really
We're all
good.
about that.
And it's reasonable.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes,
So are you still going to do the truck sometimes?
we are. We actually crazily signed on to do Fridays after 5 one last time, guys, in the Pavilion Concert Series, because we do, in fact, it's important just to remind everybody that the West is best. It's everybody needs to move out here.
Not everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody needs to spend their money.
Yeah,
out
there we go.
That's right, I was about to call the health inspector.
Yeah.
That's so mean.
Okay, so maybe you'll have a truck at the 4th of July too.
We could not let
Okay.
We cannot let that community down. That hands down is the best. I have invited friends from other
You
parts
had
of
a
the
hell of a
state.
line. You had a
We
big line. Yeah,
we did,
need you. Yeah.
and
Well, let's put it this way, the truck's not up for sale anytime soon.
it is, you can't ever say not,
Yeah.
but not until the fall. How's
Yeah.
that? So, but we do feel the need to spread, the word of Crozet around here. And even when we're cooking and we get all done, we've pulled into Perrone with the truck to have our own good times time out. And, we've been to Bull Rock and King Family, and we love it out here. And everybody should love it out here.
That's the way we feel, but.
Yeah, thank you.
We're tickled to have you. Thank you. Cora, come on up here. I don't know if you all met Cora before. He is a South African, and so he talks South African. We can understand.
English, as it's called.
We can
English.
understand. That's what you wonder where that accent is. That's where it's at. And Cora is like a shop. So another thrilling development for Crozet.
Goedenavond allemaal. Good evening. Thanks for having me. Seems like I've moved to Crozet, or my family. I've moved into the area just at the right time. Everybody says how it's growing in the right direction. We just felt really privileged to be here. And as I came into this little village the first time, it really struck me as a place where I'd like to be, live, and start a bike shop as well. And so far so good. I met a lot of really great people who helped me a lot, get my feet on the ground. And hope to see all of you in the bike store at some point. There's lots of bike paths, lots of new bike paths that's coming along. Thank you.
No, tell us more about your bikes. What do you got for bikes?
All right.
Why do you think the bike store is going to work in Crozet?
My bike store will work in Crozet. It's just far enough out of town. There's loads of really good country roads here. I've been exploring them a lot. A lot of people say that they feel that it's dangerous riding on these country roads. And they're really not as bad. If you get a bit further up, it gets quite quiet there. So there's a lot of space here. People like to come here. They like to be outdoors and experience the countryside, really. We've got Mint Springs just up around the corner. It's good for mountain biking. And all the wineries as well, that could be included in bike tours, where people can ride from winery to winery. There's a lot of opportunities, I think. Same with the breweries as well. We can maybe incorporate some kind of, automatic biking. People get a bit inebriated, but and bicycles that I have, I've got Kona. It's a line that's Kona and Jameis. Kona is from the west side of America, west and north, Oregon area. and James bikes are from the East Coast. So, and the kind of bikes, they make more mountain bikes, whereas James make a nice variety from road bikes through to mountain bikes. Also hybrids, which is very nice for people that just want to ride around in the village. They don't want to, spend a long time on a bike, but just enough to have, a certain level of fitness, basically. And then I also fix bikes, repair bikes, so it's about repair for. And we'll also be renting bikes out. I have a small fleet right now, and we'll be getting some more road bikes in as well later on.
Well, don't get me wrong, I want you to sell a lot of bikes, I want you to fix a lot of bikes, I want there to be a lot of bikes on the road. It's really amazing what cycling culture has happened around Crozet. I mean, when you look at the Miller School and how competitive they are, and Jim Duncan, he's got his cycling thing, he puts it on the front page every time he can. I mean, those cyclists, they're crazy, they're out there doing it.
All the time.
So there's a lot of it is developed, so I think it makes a lot of sense. We're delighted to have you, and we like people who are going to take a stand, invest and try. So good for you, Cora. Let us know we can do anything to help you out.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, now we're going to Frank. Everybody's seen Frank a lot of times because Frank comes to every community meeting in Crozet anymore. But, he had one that he put on, remember, over at Piedmont Place back in December. And there were 3 different alternatives to look at. I think we had about 700 people come in there and wasn't it something like that?
It was a lot. 350 or more.
Anyway, Frank's going to say a little bit about what they took away from that and where things
So,
stand.
is there anybody who didn't make it to the meeting in December? Okay, so there are some people who haven't seen it.
They saw it in the Crozet Gazette.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, I brought it, this is sort of the phase 1 master plan. Yeah. So, just to get everybody oriented, these buildings right down here, that's the mud house, that leads to the square. This is Drew's building right here. And this phase 1 piece starts really at the end of Drew's building. In fact, a piece of Oak Street has actually been built as part of his project. So this plan's been shown now, in addition to the meeting in December. It's been shown to the DCI committee a number of times. The CCA has looked at it, and CCAC has also looked at it. The feedback we got on the master plan has been universally positive, which is really exciting. I think there are a number of minor issues to be worked out as it relates to things like these intersections up here. So this is the intersection of Library and High Street, that's High Street, and this is the intersection of the square and what will become Main Street, or I don't know, Hilltop, what is that? It's going to change names at some point, but
Let's call it Square Street.
yeah, whatever. So, VDOT has been completely unyielding on the issue of these roundabouts, which they want at these intersections. So we can't find a designer who likes the idea, but that's what VDOT wants. So that's in the plan right now. We'll continue to debate that. This plan represents...
So what are we asking for versus the roundabout? Sorry.
Well, what we show here is a three-way intersection,
Yeah.
right? Three-way stops. Yeah. This first phase represents about, not maximum, but what we project is probably in the 70 to 90,000 square feet range of new space. That's about somewhere between $20 and $25 million worth of private investment and hopefully new businesses that would come with phase 1 alone. Phase 2, which is the extension of the property, and just so you know, Perrone Robotics is locating literally right there, right at the end of Phase 1. In the pink warehouse, if you know where that is, and right next to the big warehouse. So there's another 210 or 20,000 square feet of commercial space potential in Phase 2. And then there's opportunity for residential as well. So I did not bring all the plaza plans with me tonight, but I did bring some follow-up plans that I'll show you here in a minute. But at the meeting, as you know, there were 3 different concepts for how the plaza might be built out. And they were really theme concepts and a series of features that people were asked to sort of weigh in. So there were photographs of prototypical water features and stage features and stuff like that. So I'm going to report tonight and let you know what things people like and were most anxious to have in the park, some of the concerns about the park, and then we'll look at a couple of these other designs that we've gotten since then. So,
Can I pass this down here so they can?
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Get a chance to look at it a little bit closer.
So let's see. In terms of features, there was strong support for some sort of active, interactive water feature. So that could be fountains, spray park, any manner of pools. There's a variety of different options within that sort of interactive category, but that was the #1 most desired feature. Unfortunately, that's the most expensive feature and the most expensive feature to maintain. But I think we share a view that a water feature, a meaningful water feature, is really critical to creating a place.
They put one on the downtown mall, it doesn't operate anymore.
Well, it does in the summer. The big one does. But that's not interactive. That's the difference. They don't have any interactive features there. #2 was fire. Obviously, everybody loves fire. So whether that's a fire pit or there was a photograph of some water and fire featured together. Those are, that's just human nature. The boxcar stage, there was a photograph of a boxcar stage in one of the this railroad-themed plaza design. That was popular. There was an arbor shown in one of the themes and an orchard concept in one. Those were all quite popular. In terms of concepts, there were the 3 concepts were the orchard grove, which was really takeoff on the sort of agrarian history of Crozet. There was the railroad routes, which I don't have to explain. And then the sort of industrial heritage, which was somehow trying to draw the Barnes lumber, Acme Visible, all the sort of large manufacturing and production companies that really started Charlottesville, Crozet, and sort of trying to capture some of that feel within the park. We didn't specifically want people to vote for a certain plan because the plan's still evolving, so it wasn't an opportunity to say, hey, I want that plan and that's exactly the plan that's going to be built. It was an opportunity for us to find out what things are most important and then to begin to craft a final plan that we can bring back for the community to look at. So with that, we were fortunate enough at the public meeting to hear from some local residents who also happen to be gifted landscape architects. In particular, Warren Bird came to the meeting. He and his wife have taken an interest in the project. He's retired from firm, Nelson Bergholz, who you probably know is a local landscape architecture firm. They've got an international reputation, and they have an interest in the project. And so Warren and his wife took it upon themselves to share some of their ideas with us after the December meeting. We met twice. I'm just going to pass these around, and you guys can look at them table by table. They don't require a lot of explanation other than to tell you they're really just about shapes and identifying the types of spaces that get created in this plaza. And one of the big challenges is that the plaza in its current form is quite large. If you were at the meeting and you happened to walk out, we actually had the plaza flagged off, and it felt enormous. And one of the concerns that Warren and others have expressed is that it not gets so big that it loses a sense of intimacy. So the scale of the buildings around it need to be such that when you're in the space, it feels enclosed and not just like a wide open sort of field. Or yeah, if you've been to Stonefield, that's what we don't want to do. There's a green space at Stonefield in Charlottesville, and it's about half an acre, so it's not that much different in terms of size than the plaza we have here, but it has no sense of place at all. So I'll pass this around too. This is just going to be the dimensions of the plaza. The other concern is over the long-term maintenance of the plaza. And right now, there is no entity that's been identified that can take over the maintenance of the plaza. There are a couple options. This entity, this organization might be one. The Crozet Park Board might be another. The DCI, which is a committee currently sort of working on the whole downtown project, could be another if it became 501c3 or got itself more organized. But somebody can maintain it, and the county doesn't really want it. Nor do they have the funds really allocated. They're just not in that business, as I understand it. But I think they could provide some supplemental funding if the Crozet Park Board did it. There may be a way to provide some maintenance funds. But it's going to require an entity to manage and maintain the space so that the fountain always works and the grass is green and the space is programmed. There'll be a number of public gatherings and events that could happen here. Markets could happen here. Concerts could happen here. So it's not unlike the downtown mall, and then somebody has to organize all that stuff and make it happen and then figure out how to pay for the maintenance. So we're working through some of those issues now, but one of the big concerns was over the amount of grass, because grass is, well, it's cheap to put in the front. It's very difficult to maintain over any period of time, particularly when it gets a lot of traffic. It turns into dirt, and then it really doesn't have a lot of value, or you have to go in and resod it every couple of years. So some of these plans, some of Warren's plans were an attempt to address those concerns and create spaces that, sort of subspaces within the plaza that would feel more intimate when you didn't have 400 people there, and also less grass. So more hardscape, less green. As those are going around, feel free to, if you want to ask questions about them. Again, there's obviously not a lot of detail. You really just get to see shapes and forms and think about how that space might function in a variety of different contexts. So on any given day, you might only have a handful, or 20 people might be in the plaza. So you don't want to. It's got to be a place where people feel comfortable, even if it's a small group. They have a place they can go and feel like it's intimate space. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Did they offer suggestions as far as the water feature?
Did Warren? No, not really. They knew it was high priority, so he incorporated it into, I think, all the schemes they showed us. They incorporated watering in one fashion or another. I mean, water's, it's our garden, water, you know, it's a nice thing to have. If you can afford it, it's a nice thing to have. Any questions about just design, feedback, any feedback you all have?
Well, what about the roundabouts thing? Why is VDOT going to stick on that? When I visit the roundabouts over here in Old Trail, I notice that pedestrians are not really anxious to cross a roundabout intersection. They try and go down the block and cross where the street's narrower, but when they come to the roundabouts, it's not like it's pedestrian friendly.
No.
So why do we want to have two of them downtown? I don't understand why is that happening.
You're asking the wrong. So VDOT's perspective is that three-way stops are dangerous for pedestrians.
Why?
Well, because the through movement is, in their mind, unwarranted. The stop on the two straight sections, right, is unwarranted. And so, and when I say unwarranted, that's just a VDOT term for it. It can't be justified in VDOT world. So what happens is resident or, you know, citizens think people are going to stop. They walk out in the street and the, you know, car doesn't see the stop sign. I mean, but that's their concern, and they think, I will say, these are mini roundabouts, so they're not like the roundabouts at Old Trail. Those are much larger. These
Right, going to
roundabouts.
take care of this problem for you. Because the cars are all going to stop as soon as the person steps out.
Way better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so
We're going to have the best traffic control in Crozet.
I think this is something that we're going to have to continue to advocate for, Mike, to be honest with you. I mean, residents, I hope will get engaged in this conversation. And we're fortunate that Joel D'Annunzio lives here. So Joel does listen, and I think can be influenced, and I think we probably can convince them ultimately that roundabouts maybe aren't the best solution. But for now, we're stuck with roundabouts. Yeah.
Would these be more the size, like Richmond with, I think it's West Broad Village? There's kind of a place over by Whole Foods and a couple other shops that are kind of large. They've got smaller roundabouts that are used kind of very similar to this plan. I was there, happened to be there last weekend. I actually thought that they worked very nicely because they were small. They weren't like the ones in Old Trail where it's like a huge loop around with nothing in the middle. I think that's what they're trying to get at, is make it quick in and out.
Yeah, just give you a sense of how wide these would be. The outside edge of the circle is only 60 feet in diameter. So
This room, fit in this room.
it would fit in this. So essentially, the middle, the aisle in the middle may only be 15 feet wide, 20 feet wide. So it's got a mountable curb. There's no trees in it. It's just a raised curb.
So it's a sanctuary for somebody that's crossing, supposedly.
Well, no, you don't cross at the round, so you would cross around the roundabout, not through the roundabout. So if you look at this drawing, you would, yeah, at the ends of the roundabout.
There's no green in it. It's
So you cross here or there, not through, not actually through the roundabout. The other thing I should mention that we've talked about before, but just remind everybody, what VDOT is advocating for is a one-way street coming in to the square, right in or left in only to Oak Street, and then beyond that it would be two-way.
You said right in and left in?
Right in or left in for Crozet Avenue into the square, and then two-way beyond Oak Street. So
there is going to be, and you can enter the square from either
you
direction.
can enter the square from either direction. I mean,
But you have to
what you can't do is you can't
You
exit.
can't exit the
You
square.
can't exit the square.
I
Correct.
know, the exit's going to be private.
No, he's saying, oh,
Parking,
To come down.
where's
Yeah,
the
that's
parking
right.
going to
So-
be? Is it going to be in like a, building, or are we going to have similar to what was?
So there'll be on-street parking on every street. And then you see these white areas, those are presumably. Now, we don't, this is property that we don't own, so we can't, we can show as parking, but it's no guarantee that that's what it will become. And we don't, this is the library here, and that's the parking area behind the library. And one of the things we've suggested that the county consider doing long-term is turning this parking lot into structured parking deck. It's centrally located, county already owns the land, and it actually, existing grades would allow you to put one or even two additional decks on top of that. Yeah. Fairly inexpensive.
So when do you think you're gonna have finalized the design and go for a date with the planning commission? And when?
Well, so the plan, all these plan ideas, together with all the community feedback, have gone back to Mahan Reichel. They are the landscape architects from Baltimore who are working on the design. And they are going to have some sketches for us here in the next couple weeks. We'll probably take those sketches back to the DCI committee. So if you have any interest in following this more actively, the DCI committee meets the first Thursday of every month. You're welcome to attend those meetings. They're open to anybody. If everybody seems positive, we'll probably have one more meeting from the community to come and look at it. And then, we'll formally adopt it. The big challenge with the plaza is figuring out how to pay for it. It's budgeted at about $3 million. Right now, nobody has the money to fund that entirely. So we're going to meet with the county next week to talk about strategies for funding it. One of the cases we've made is that, with $20 million worth of private investment in phase one, there's a lot of tax revenue that will be collected that's not being collected today. And so we think we can build a pretty strong case that in a reasonable period of time, if the county were to issue bonds, they could get a pretty healthy return on their investment. But that's not something the county's done before. A lot of other localities do it, but it's kind of new for the county. So Ann's trying to gently nudge them in the right direction.
Well, they're learning, you're a guinea pig.
Yes, yeah.
Is this hardscape inside?
No, so that would be grass,
This
that
is a
area.
little bit,
Yeah.
okay, that embrace, I was just
Yeah.
curious. Okay, thank you.
The yellow-green area in the middle is grass.
Right, is there anything that the businesses or the area can do to help push the things forward? I see that as critical.
Yeah, I mean, it is critical. It's I know for Perrone, when we started talking to them, they were really interested about what the vision is. What's the vision? And how are we going to achieve the vision? And we've got a number of other businesses who want to be downtown. We've got 2 hotel developers who want to build downtown. But everybody wants the plaza. The plaza is kind of a critical catalyst to make it happen. So it's important that we figure out how to get there. It's not a huge leap to get there, but it is significant. And the challenge for us is, when it's all said and done, we have to be able to build space and lease it at a rate that people can actually afford. And so the financial underwriting for us in the private sector is almost impossible for something like a public park, because there's just not enough. You can't amortize that cost over enough land to pay for it. So this leads me to my next topic, which is sort of the grant writing efforts that are going on right now, and how perhaps this group or you as individuals could participate. We hired a grant writer, Pat Group. She's a very experienced grant writer. She's now working with the DCI, and they're looking at about 15 different grant opportunities that would provide funding for planning, funding for construction, funding for streetscape improvements, all kinds of different funding sources and funding uses that would help us get this thing off the ground. And so I think different grants require different participation. Some of these grants will require the county's participation, but some can be applied for by a 501c3. which is just a nonprofit organization, and the Crozet Board of Trade is one of those. In fact, maybe the only one that's in Crozet right now. So I would encourage Mike to think about looking at some of these grant opportunities and seeing if any of them would fit with your mission. And if so, maybe we could help go after some of that grant money. And I know Perrone is also looking at opportunities through the state and maybe federal. I don't know what other sources you guys are looking after, but it's, there is money out there. And if you don't believe me, if you look at the news a couple weeks ago, you probably saw that Standardsville got $1 million grant. And they did it because a group of citizens got together and formed, I hate to use the word, a CDC, and they went after state funding, and they got it. The DHCD gave them $1 million. So for just the kind of thing that we're talking about here. So it is out there. This is an incredibly exciting project for people who don't even live here. When you talk to these grant funding folks and you describe what we have here, they're like, wow, that's pretty neat. And now we have a vision for it. And if we can get the whole community around that vision, and we can get Ann's help, and we can get some help from the county, I think we can push this thing over the edge. So if you want to be more involved, again, the DCI is one way. This organization, again, could apply for some of these grants. There are requirements of the grant, of the organization that you'll have to read through and see if you qualify. But it's a great opportunity, and there are a lot of things. There's a lot of work to be done.
Well, let me say, we're not going to write any grant proposals, is what I said. But is there any interest that if they came to us and said, would you be our sponsoring organization? Is there any interest? Would you want to entertain participating in some of those grants? Yeah.
To be the recipient as
To be somehow responsible in the grants.
Yes.
Yeah. Show of hands, yes. A little bit. Okay. Show of hands, no. Okay, there's no no's. So yeah, I'd say if you guys come across a grant where you think we might help you,
Yeah.
let us know about it.
Okay.
But we're not going to find somebody to go.
No. Yeah. No. We weren't expecting that.
Any more questions of Frank? Because we need to talk about the survey, and I've already run through my whole timeline. So.
Sorry.
I just want to add that the big poster we circulated, all those concepts are on the downtown CrozetInitiative.com website, where you can look at them in more detail and make comments and give us feedback on them if you didn't make it to the December event. We welcome that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for really appreciate you coming and showing us the latest plans, and especially showing us what Warren and Susan Nelson did. Susan Nelson is also a landscape architect, and if you see them work together, you realize that the guy married very well. It was also Nelson Bird, as I recall, the way the names went. So anyway, she's very good, and it's nice to be able to see what they're doing. And they came forward gratis.
You did.
They were very deeply involved in the creation of the master plan in 2004. They know the long-term picture. And Warren won 3 AIA awards in 1 year. These guys are like stellar in the game. So we're really lucky that they live in our town and they're willing to help out with this project. It's nice for Frank to show us what they're doing. So the survey now. We talked about the survey last time. Tom Loach, who's going to head up the little committee of which our organization is a part to get the master plan updated, and Tim, president of the Community Association, is actually our survey guru. Anyway, they've been going over it. We want to get that thing on the street as soon as we can. We're going to leave it out there for like a month. I'll let them talk about it. But I think that they're pretty close to finalizing the survey. Am I not wrong?
Let me give you a little bit of history why the survey. As you know, in Crozet, the blueprint for development is the master plan. The master plan, we did one in 2005, we did an update in 2010. We were due for an update in 2015 when the county said they could not do it until probably 2018. At that point, the community decided, well, we've done through 2 of these, we can do it ourselves the 3rd time rather than wait, until 2018. In 2009, just before the the second survey, the second master plan, we decided to do a survey. One of the reasons for the survey was, one, the county board of supervisors had asked us a question about developing the intersection of 64 and I-64 and 250. They wanted that incorporated in the master plan update. And two, we wanted to find out also what is happening, has anything changed in the community with the change in demographics, a change in population from 2005, the first plan, to 2010, the second plan. So before we started, we had a direction that we were going. Was the master plan still valid, and what needed to be changed? So that's one that we feel the survey now, prior to going into the next revision, is very important. When we looked at the old survey, we found, before going into this, at the new survey, a lot of the questions that were asked in 2009 and 2010 are still valid today, and we included a lot of those questions in the preliminary surveys that we're putting together. There is a committee, as he said, Tim is not only the group, but we actually have 3 PhD social scientists on the committee. So actually the survey is going to be done in 2 parts. One is a public survey that will go out to the general public. One is a scientific survey that will be done, and that's what we're taking money. We're going to, I'll let Tim talk about that more than me, because it's scientific. And we also added new questions. In other words, we took part of Frank's survey for the DCI, added some questions in from that. We added some questions in about the light industrial space over in Acme, and what we'd like to see the community according to the targeted industries from the county. The Crozet is about to get some money from the county for improvements. Probably throw in a question there. So we're hoping again to see if our master plan is still valid as it's been, especially the principles, and that'll lead us into the master plan update, and that'll be sort of the preliminary entry into that master plan update development that we're going to be doing later on. Anything else?
No, just about the scientific side of this. What we were hoping to do this time is get some of the funding to actually do a representative sample of Crozet and the area around Crozet, and have that be our scientific sample. The survey will be the same between the public and those, but we'll keep that pool of people separate so that we can use that to generalize to all of Crozet scientifically. So the other 2 people that Tom was alluding to live here in Crozet. Tom Buderbach is the director of the Center for Public Surveys at UVA, and Sean, Sean's last name, I can't remember his name. He's actually a political pollster. He's vice president, and his company's actually out in Colorado, but they moved here a couple of years ago, and he volunteered to help as well. And so what they can help us develop is the scientific sample to be able to say when questions come up in the future, we'll be able to say to the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, and others, we can say within plus or minus 5%, say, the community feels this way on this issue you're asking about. And then the other half of the survey would be done the same way we did it last time, where anybody can take the survey, anybody can fill it out. Last time when we did that in 2009, we got over 700 responses. So we felt like actually that could be considered representative, but the margin of error there was closer to 10%. But even with that, a lot of the questions, 60 to 70% of the people felt strongly about the issue. So even if we were off by 10 or 15%, we knew that more than half of Crozet felt that way. But we think it'll be valuable to have a scientific sample to help back up the results of that and share that with, going forward, share that with supervisors.
So besides the 700 returns, we had over 1,200 comments come in that helped formulate the master plan revision that we went into. So as the planning commission for the 8 years, I knew in the planning commission when I got there, if there was an issue about Crozet, I had a pretty good idea which way the community was going to go, not discounting that all of that went to the CCAC, the advisory committee, too. So both were very helpful.
What's the total number of questions on the survey?
Haven't gotten the total number, but it's probably going to be about 40. We're worried again, like last time, it's long.
There's no way to avoid it, though.
But
Too many things
there's
to
too
find
many
out.
things to find out about, there's too many things.
How long do you think it would take to fill the survey out? I mean,
Haven't gotten it together enough to know, but
Okay.
last time it was taken
10,
over.
10 or 12 minutes.
No, last time it was about 20 minutes.
In comparison, when the Center for Survey Research did the really thorough, wonderful surveys for the county, to which the county paid $25,000, it took at least a half an hour on the phone to go over, to do it with them. So I think for the people they call, it will be time well spent.
They have to call everybody.
No, we'll do it online. We're going to do postcards and then follow-up letters. And the idea will be if you get a postcard, you're supposed to go to that website and fill it out, or there'll be a phone number to call if you don't have internet access or you don't want to do it on the internet. Then we'll have somebody follow up and call. But what we prefer, you just go to the website and do it. Or we can send you a paper form, and then you can fill out the paper and send it back to us, and we'll fill it out online. Same thing, and then when we do the public side, we're hoping the Gazette will publish it like it did last time. We'll have paper copies in the libraries for people that don't have good internet access, or just aren't comfortable doing it on the internet, can do the paper, turn it back in, and we can still get their response, because we don't want technology to be a block to getting people's feedback.
For
Jeremy?
people who are part of the scientific sample, they will be made aware that the survey
Yeah,
is available.
they should only, right, if you're part of it, you should only go,
Right. They'll get a code or something.
they'll get a code, right, and they'll say, one member of your household should use this to fill out, all the rest of your members of your household should go to the public survey and fill it out.
Right. I think that's important, so in that way.
Right, it keeps the sample, the scientific sample, quote unquote, pure, accurate.
Can you talk about, because Ann mentioned a price tag that came along with a survey that was administered by the center, was countywide, is that right, the one that was done? $25,000, so we're looking to do between $4,000 and $5,000?
Yes, and that's mostly going to be in the cost of printing and mailing and follow-ups, and paying for, you actually pay companies to generate your sample because they can get the address base and you can define an actual geographical area because, of course, the growth area boundaries for Crozet is not a zip code or even any mailing address or a census block. It's its own thing. And we want to do a sample both inside of that, so we know that all of these responses came just from within the growth area. And then for a certain distance outside of that, we want to have a ring, a proportionate ring sample outside of that. So that's what part of the money's going to have to go, is that kind of specific GIS sampling in those areas.
So it seems like, to me, we're getting, with the help of a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of, and we're not doing the phone, phone interviews are way costly to pay for, because you gotta obviously have first off, you gotta have the technological setup of the person to do the phone and enter the answers, and then you gotta have multiple people doing that if you want to get the thing responded to in a timely fashion.
What's the target for getting the survey out? I mean, what do you think, in March?
Yeah, March.
Okay.
We'll figure we'll get it out in
And it's out
March.
there for a month?
Yeah,
and
a
then you
month
call
to
it
6
over?
weeks, then we call it over, and then we start working on the analysis. So that way we get it done before the end of the school year, and, then things get chaotic.
Well, I've said this before, I think the Board of Trade needs to cough up some money somehow, so I guess I'll send out an email with an address on it. If you feel motivated, you can send us a check and help out. It's getting to be, the other thing we raise money for, remember, is a fireworks show at the park. And that generally comes around May. We're going to be looking for about $9,000 there.
July 1st, 2017,
Yeah.
so next Independence Day celebration.
And if we collect too much, what I'm saying is if we get extra, we're just going to apply it to the fireworks. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
any questions now about this? I think this has got a lot of payoff for us to know. I think it's worth knowing scientifically valid information. It's really going to pay off for us, I think, to know that. Dan, you want to say a couple of words about it?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Tom.
So I'm here for a recruiting visit. This is the sign. If you choose to join the Monticello Artisan Trail, you would have this lovely sign at your place of business. You may have seen one at the Artisan Gallery and some other places in town. So the Artisan Trail is, as you see the full ones unfolded here, this was the first of the Artisan Trails in Virginia, and there are now 19 others which have followed in the last 5 years. It's geared to bring visitors from all over the world to the artisan studios or to the businesses who choose to be site sponsors or get themselves listed on here. So I'm here to ask you to at least take home a brochure or two to share with others and think about whether you would like to be part of it. We are going to be printing new maps here. This last one was done 4 years ago. Over 40,000 of them were distributed at member locations and also at all of the visitor centers throughout the Commonwealth. So this is also connected to an online presence, which each of your businesses would have if you're a member of the trail. And this then has an itinerary basis, itinerary planner built in, this big computer program platform, which is generated by the Virginia Tourism Council, to which we have access. There are also multiple different ways if you are interested or a food person and want to have something having to do with oysters, you can do a combination of an extra little add-on of $10 more. You can be a member of the Oyster Trail, even though the oysters are in the eastern part of the state. For restaurants and brewers who might want to use oysters in the western part of the state or the central area, you can be part of this as well if you're a member of this one. So I really don't have more to say than that. If people would like to email me, I will provide all of the new data, and there's been a big market study on this. If you'd like to read about that, I can provide whatever information, or dig up whatever information you would like. But please do take a bunch of these home. I have lots. And where they're available, and also when we have visitors at our house and people from out of the area wanting to know what to do, handing them a map like this gives them a whole different experience about what Albemarle County is like, and gives a personal connection to a lot of our growers and business people and artisans as well. So that's all I have to say, but please take stuff home. Thank you.
If you go ahead, I'm sorry.
How many artisans are there on the trail, and then any idea how many artisans there are just in the Crozet community?
Well, there are
around Crozet?
Approximately 70. We started out with closer to 90 for the first run, and some have gone off and new ones have joined since this was printed, but they're getting their exposure through the online platform right now. And we're hoping that we can certainly expand the numbers, especially for destinations. We have lots of visitation, people coming to the area as a result of these campaigns, and all of the brochures on this end of the table are for trails in the other parts of the state. So people who are used to going to their own trail are going to then, when they go somewhere else, go to see the trail in the new location. But they need to eat, and they need to have other things to do besides going to visit the crafts folks and the farms and the wineries and the breweries. And so that's why a variety of different activities is really important, and we're trying to expand the inclusion to provide those other experiences for people. And people come from other parts of the country for this very purpose. The idea was stolen from the Handmade in America, which was a program begun in North Carolina about 20 years ago, which has really saved their rural economy down there. And it's been, I think, very helpful. We've had good responses from our craft people who really have found a significant increase in their business, and they're happy about that. It brings the customers to them instead of them always having to go out to fairs and things. That's the only way to meet people. So if that appeals to you, please let me know. Thank you.
If you've been into the depot, I think there's like 25 or 30 artisans in there now. We did a little Christmas shopping in there. It's really astonishing, the quality of this stuff. I gotta say, we were a little nonplussed by it. And it's really impressive. There's probably about, I would say, Frank, 15 or 20 that are right around Crozet. But they're so successful, they're attracting people. Can we get in your depot? Can we get in your depot?
Right.
And there's a lot of cool stuff. It's just astonishing how many cool, talented people are living in this town. It's just astonishing.
Yes.
But you go in there, you see lots of very attractive, very well-made stuff.
And there are a lot of craftspeople who are going to the big shows in Chicago and places. I mean, they're of that stature.
It's pay off for them, because now they have a retail outlet.
Right.
You know, they don't have to stop and go somewhere in order to sell. The other thing, I gotta say something. What a fantastic supervisor you have been.
Oh.
Yeah. You threw yourself into that chimney project, which is now almost virtually finished. I don't know how many supervisors are going out, putting out brochure tables for the artisan trail.
Well, this is I go every year to the Harvest Festival at Monticello, basically, with my, whatever bottles of wine I have from local wineries in my closet and things like this, just to try to meet people, and it's fun. It's really, really loads of
Yeah,
fun.
she's done a lot for us as a supervisor.
Well, thank you.
And I'm just trying to point this out as something that's a little bit above and beyond the call of normal community spirit, and you've got more than normal community spirit, in my opinion.
February 7th, John is hosting Sip and Learn here at Perrone at 5:30, and that will be to have the real official, by our executive director and others, information about joining the trail. So and we'll get that information to Mike for the paper, so that will be out in the newspaper before that event. But that's a really great way to find out a little more detail. Thank you very much.
All right, I apologize. Hit the bar, folks.
See you next time.